The debate over stop and frisk. Now, on Monday, a judge ruled the policy is unconstitutional, named a federal monitor to oversee changes. The city filed a motion to overrule those changes. So is this going too far or not far enough? That's the big question.
Well, Ed Mullins is president of the Sergeants Benevolent Association. Adam Thompson, a New York civil law attorney. Both gentlemen joining us here this morning to talk about this issue. Welcome to you both. Thank you for coming in. Or we know the city's already set an appeal. It's going down. But, you know, the question here, I guess, is that the judge said that the city is practicing racial profiling by pointing out that young black and Hispanic men are obviously predominantly stopped in these cases. So how does it hurt if only 5 or 6% of them are actually arrested? Of the 2 million stops, only 5%. So how is that combating crime?
Well, first of all, stop and frisk is actually wrong. It's stop, question and frisk.
Sure.
And that's been left out all along. How is it combating crime? What the judge is doing, and judges have been wrong before, and particularly this judge, it's my understanding, may be the most overturned judge in the country. What this judge is doing is looking at the statistics of how many stops in relation to how many arrests. Stop and frisk is not designed for stops leading to arrests. The frisk part comes in by giving an officer the ability to frisk for weapons if they feel there's a weapon present. All that percentage reveals is that in 98% of the time, there was no weapon revealed, and that officer is working within a safer environment. She's looking at it from it produced no weapon. They're not always going to produce a weapon. That's the decision of, you know, Terry versus Ohio.
But there are no arrests. I think that you make the
You're
point.
Not always
I think that's what
you're right what you're saying. See, the numbers don't lie. You know, if you look at the math and the common sense together, stop and frisk doesn't work. Over 90% of the people that are stopped, questioned, frisk, however you want to fall into whatever category it is, are let go and completely innocent. So when you have just barely 5% or more leading to actual arrests, that means that the method that the police are using is ineffective. It's okay to go up and question people in high crime areas because you have to put police in concentrated areas where there's crime to fight it. That just makes sense. But when 95% of the people being questioned are innocent and haven't done anything, then you know something's not working right. And like you said, this Terry versus Ohio is a leading case on this. Right. You're supposed to have articulable facts. It's reasonable suspicion to approach someone, question them. It has to be based not on speculation, on surmise or guesswork, actual facts. And when 95% of the time the police are wrong doing this, that means it's not working. It's not working.
So what do you change then? How do you balance a public safety versus constitutional rights issue?
Better training. It all starts with training. Look, you're going into communities where everybody wants there to be less crime. No one's in favor of crime. People want to see guns off the street. People want to see the murder rates down. But you can't demoralize and dehumanize people going into communities where there's people working hard that just going to and from work or to the store to get milk, they're going to get pulled over and searched because they live in a high crime area or the color of their skin. And that's what's going on. You know, the primary reason this, when stop and frisk are being done, if you look, there's forms that are filled out every time it happens. That's what the rule is.
Right,
and on the forms, the checkbox is location or movements that seem suspicious. Well, all the time?
How do you make that work?
You're debating the inefficiency of doing a form the right way versus making a stop in an area where crime is high and people are being killed. If you're going to measure it based on that, then what we're doing with TSA of stopping everyone going onto a plane and doing body scans has produced no planes coming out of the sky. You can't judge a guard dog in the backyard by how many bites he has, but rather how many people have broken into his house. At the end of the day, we've tried community policing back in the 90s. Murder rates skyrocketed. There was no policing back in the 70s and the 80s as a result of corruption. They weren't allowed to make arrests back then. So today, there's a new method of an aggressive policing that's addressing the problem. Murder rates have come down, crime has come down, and the good people in these communities that are trying to survive, they want you there. Unfortunately, the problem comes down to a lack of education on both sides of the coin. And what Adam's saying is true. There needs to be some training issues to be, make the police department a little more sensitive, but the community needs to be a little more understanding to understand what's taking place.
Well, crime was already coming down. Prior to the implementation of all these procedures, it had already been coming down, and the statistics have showed as the increase in these searches, which it was like at 150,000 searches around 2003, it's now over close to 1 million. the percentages of guns recovered has been hovering around 1.5% the whole time. So you're not getting more guns off the street. And again, as these searches and stops are going up, you're getting no production and more arrests of substance. There's nothing going on. 95% of people have been found to be completely innocent.
Let's talk about the federal monitor, Peter Zimroth. Right man for the job?
I think the jury's out. We can only judge him as we go into history.
You know his background. He's a former prosecutor. You worked for Ed Koch. What do you think? And what tangibly needs to be done to make this work for both sides?
I think we've agreed there's an education training aspect.
Everything starts with training. You got to train the police officers. I'm a big proponent of community policing. I think it builds unity. I think you get people involved in the community, working with the police. Because right now there's just distrust. Listen, there's distrust between a great portion of the community towards police. And until you change that inherent, opinion, things don't improve. They just don't.
I've lived through community policing. I've got 32 years in this police department. You can talk about community policing. I've experienced it. It does not work. Someone needs to ask the crime victims and the murder victims' families what they think about what's taking place. Not one testified in this whole trial.
Well, the debate goes on, gentlemen. I think everybody would agree that community policing is difficult when there's a distrust from both sides. So,
that's a problem.
that's where the education comes in. All right, gentlemen, thank you both very much for sharing in the discussion. We appreciate it. And there's a lot more ahead on Today in New York, including how one search engine caused a 40% drop in web traffic in just 5 minutes.
Sorry about that.